Hi, everybody, and for the first time ever, the Guardians of Liberty are coming to you from the same room. Hi, Zach. High five, dude. Yeah. We are joined today by the co-founder and host of the Think Liberty podcast, Vinny Marshall. How you doing, Vinny?
I'm well. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on.
We're doing pretty awesome right now. So I thought we'd start out the show. Zach, you were at the Iowa Libertarian Party State Convention today. Yep. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I didn't press them a whole lot on like what changes they would make. I know that their chair changed hands. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that was on purpose or not. I didn't really talk to Mr. Snyder about that. But so the key parts of it were Freedom Works was there talking about training activists to do some kind of work. How did they say it? Like training people to kind of bombard federal agencies when they're trying to get something deregulated. And he brought up a good point for all the terrible things we can say about Trump right now, and they're all true. The administration is still deregulating a lot more than any previous administration for a long time. So the door is open for us, and if you want to get involved with that, Freedom Works is doing something with that. I think I talked him into tabling at the Unconvention, so that'll be fun.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
And they might even do kind of the same presentation at the Unconvention. Then there was a gubernatorial debate between Marco Battaglia and Jake Porter. I think the consensus is Jake Porter is just a little bit more polished in front of people. I don't think they really disagree on any policy, but the things that they're focusing on are different. So that's kind of the big difference in their campaigns is just kind of their areas of focus, and Jake's just a little sharper speaking to a room. So I like both of them, and I think either one of them would do really well in a general, especially apparently Iowa's, the R's and the D's are just terrible. So,
well, I mean, that there always are. It's always the case.
Right. I mean, I can think of a couple races where the R or the D is like, well, he's not as bad as most. Like I hate to say this, but like when Sass is up for re-election, I hate him personally, but he's decent as a senator. Mm-hmm. So that like targeting Deb Fischer, like Jim Stoltz targeting Deb Fischer instead of Ben Sass is good. And then Michael Pickens talked about weed because he's Michael Pickens, and that's what everyone assumes he's going to talk about. I think he was talking about something else, but I actually didn't get to stay for that part because it was snowing and I didn't want to drive when it got cold. But then, like halfway back to Nebraska, the roads were dry. It's like I hate Midwestern weather.
Yeah, it's awful for you. It's awful out here, dude. Never move to the Midwest. The weather is freaking terrible.
Oh, I lived out there for a bit. I lived in Illinois for a few years.
Oh, that's even worse.
It was pretty brutal. Yeah, I'm familiar with the crazy weather.
All right. So a couple things. First, so we are being sponsored by the Roads to Freedom Foundation Omaha Unconvention. We at the Unconvention are about to actually cut our prices in half because we are trying to, instead of trying to make this an event that sustains itself financially necessarily, we're trying to get just a bunch of people there and trust that the product that we are providing is worth it to them to keep coming back. So the prices for a basic ticket are going to go down to $49 here very soon. And then you can still use the discount code ROADS to get 10% off or 20%.
I think it's 20%.
Yeah, 20% off of that number. And then we have, because everyone knows I'm with the Unconvention too, are also sponsoring the Think Liberty podcast. And we don't have a code for you guys yet, and I really need to do that this week, so stay on me.
All right. Fair.
You could just use discount code Rhodes.
Well, we want to. Part of the reason for the discount code is so that
Track it.
Yeah, you can track it, and that way, if we get like 30 people from Think Liberty, it's like, well, that's pretty good advertising pull. We know to go back to them next time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And to my thinking, if we got 30 people from advertising with Think Liberty, then we're probably going to bump up their package a little bit too. You're going to get a bigger package.
Oh, we got some more work to do on our spots then. We gotta.
Do we have any? We got the Roads to Freedom thing. Let's do. Did you meet with one of the Think Liberty folks down there in Iowa?
Oh yeah, I forgot. You said his name was Chris. I'm so bad with names.
No, it's okay. Yeah, Chris Oglesby.
Yeah, that's such a cool name too.
I know. Right?
I don't know how I'm forgetting it, but I met up with him. He's a really cool guy.
Yeah. I like
hoping
Chris.
to. Like I'm looking. Like we've talked back and forth about collaborating a little bit more. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, he's a good guy to have on podcast too. He's a good conversation runner. He'll gab with you all day.
I was supposed to debate you about something. I can't remember what it was.
About me?
Yeah, I don't remember. Well, maybe not you, but it was someone over there. I was supposed to do a debate. I was talking to Caitlin about it.
What was it about? Do you remember what the debate topic was?
I am old, my friend. I don't remember anything.
If you remember the topic, I might be able to tell you who it was. It seems like everyone always ends up debating Kevin. Right, because Kevin, he's with us, and he's a little more to the left. He'll be the first one to tell you that. Right, so it's mostly people lining up to debate Kevin over some issue or another.
Now, when you say he's a little bit to the left, you don't mean he's one of these socialist caucus folks that keep trolling every libertarian group there is out there.
No, I think if you ask
all
Kevin,
of you guys are socialists.
Right. I think if you ask Kevin, he'd tell you he was probably a libertarian socialist. I know he's not affiliated with that caucus. I believe it's more philosophically like in the vein of like Benjamin Tucker type stuff. Kind of like that individualism jam. But yeah, we're getting into territory that I'm not extremely well versed in. So, maybe it'd be good to have Kevin on next. He's quite a good visual to have too. He's got all these crazy lights and like flags when he does videos. It's
like I wouldn't like Benjamin Tucker. I don't know if maybe he'd be classified as a left libertarian, but most people who go by that title just have a different set of priorities. Like they prioritize the social instead of the economic, which is what most right libertarians would do. That's not what these socialist caucus folks are. These are people that think that rent is theft, and I want to strangle them.
I've been seeing rent is theft all over Think Liberty stuff lately.
Oh my God! I don't. Yeah, it. Yeah. So.
Sorry, I'm halfway through this. I'm trolling already.
No, it's okay. Like Hudak has an article about it. The LibSoc caucus is an odd thing because they do that, and I think they do it on purpose, and they use ways to portray language. And if you ask them, they said they're going to tell you that it's to inspire like conversations, which
whatever.
It does. I don't know what kind
I don't think they're conversations. They're arguments. It's a difference.
They are arguments, right? So it's just different. I guess it's kind of all depends on who you talk to. I heard their platform came out, and there's plenty to pick apart in that. But like Bo, for instance, is a friend of mine. I like Bo a lot, and I can sit down and I can have Bo communicate a lot of the ideas of it with me. And it's like, okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. That sounds libertarian enough to me. And then you talk to other people from it, and you're like, this sounds like communism. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of I guess it depends who you're speaking with.
Yeah. The second you start saying that rent is theft, at that point in time, you're not a libertarian anymore in my book.
So, God, Elfie.
It's one of these things. That a lot of times people try to say, "Oh, they're not advocating for force and anything. They just want to have their own little voluntary socialist commune or whatever the heck they want." I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool, whatever. But then you say rent is theft, and once you get into that territory, then you're a communist.
We are 10 minutes in, and we have derailed like a mofo.
Okay, so I guess we can get a little bit onto topic. So I thought we'd start off a little bit. So today we had the Yeah, very appropriate. Today we had the March for Our Lives, the most intellectually dishonest name for anything I've ever heard.
This is the Women's March with teenagers. That's all this is. That's all it is.
That is exactly what it is.
It's a leftist march manufactured by groups that are funded by rich leftists. It's not a grassroots effort. I can't talk, whatever. I'm already slurring. I am done. Anyway, continue.
See, at least a women's march, you can believe that they actually organized this thing themselves.
They didn't, though.
But they're not claiming to be teenagers, or the women's march. They're not claiming to be teenagers organizing, dozens of rallies across the country. This March for Our Lives are like, oh, look at these teenagers. Look at what they did. Like, shut up. They didn't do that. This is literally put on by the same people that put on the Women's March. So let's get that out there. But today, the Parkland students that have been in all the news recently, who can't seem to get through an interview without calling everybody who opposes them child murderers.
Yeah, that's the good one.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway, they came out with a manifesto. And I thought it may be fun to go through some of the highlights of their manifesto. So I'm not going to... Good. Oh my goodness, and the Guardian's the ones that published this, so you already know kind of the vein of where this is coming from. So I thought I'd just go through a couple of the more interesting demands that these Parkland students have. Demand number 1, ban semi-automatic weapons that fire high-velocity rounds. Civilians.
We only want slow bullets.
Does it define the velocity that they are willing to accept?
No, it does not.
Just vaguely kind of, okay, all right.
Just a high velocity round. That's every round, ever. Everything that's ever come out of a firearm has been high velocity round.
Well, yeah, they're all pretty high velocity, but sure, yeah, all right.
Like I've seen this meme going around now where this dude, it's a picture of Neo from the Matrix dodging bullets.
Oh, sure.
Dodging slow velocity rounds.
Oh. That's great. That meme has got some mileage lately for quite a few different purposes.
It's great. So here's what it says. Civilians shouldn't have access to the same weapons that soldiers do. That's a gross misuse of the Second Amendment. These weapons were designed for dealing death. Not to animals or targets, but to other human beings. The fact that they can be bought by the public does not promote domestic tranquility. Rather, their availability puts us into the kind of danger faced by men and women trapped in war zones. This situation reflects a failure of our government. Such a failure. It must be corrected to ensure the safety of those guaranteed the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
So, I mean, they didn't say anything there, though, right? Like, this is the thing that you always run into when you get into these debates with people about this topic is they, like, okay, so... I mean, what are we on item 2 now? And the only thing that's really been stated is like, we're going to do away with the scary ones.
Essentially, that's essentially what it is.
I've not heard anything mentioned now. We don't have any specific kind of details about what exactly they intend on doing. As best I understand, it's any black weapon that fires fast bullets.
We're having technical difficulties. We have not worked out the studio yet.
No, it's fine.
Hi, everybody, and for those of us just joining us, we are joined with Vinny Marshall of the Think Liberty podcast. So we're in the middle of a discussion about gun control, and the Parkland students who had their March for Our Lives event this weekend put out a manifesto for us, published by The Guardian, and I'm going to go through a little bit of some of the things they have in it. So demand number 1. Ban semi-automatic weapons that fire high-velocity rounds. Civilians shouldn't have access to the same weapons that soldiers do. That's a gross misuse of the Second Amendment. These weapons were designed for dealing death, not to animals or targets, but other human beings. The fact that they can be bought by the public...
Okay, no, just pause. The Second Amendment was written at a time where a musket was a weapon of war. And they always say that the Second Amendment was written for muskets. Therefore, weapons of war were why the Second Amendment was written.
Yes. Absolutely. I love how they go, this was meant to deal death, not to targets. What? Not to targets? Okay. Not to animals. Well, excuse me, but an AR-15 is functionally identical to most hunting rifles that you can find out there. There's really no functional difference between the two. An AR-15 is a hunting rifle.
With a large magazine.
Exactly.
Really
it's the most popular hunting rifle in America.
Really?
Yeah, it is.
Why would you? So I would never use one to hunt with.
It's the most popular rifle in America. And because it's just the most popular gun out there, most people that own firearms use them for hunting. So a lot of people use their AR-15s for hunting.
Okay, whatever.
So
we're dumb.
So to say it's not a weapon designed for killing animals is objectively wrong.
All guns are designed to kill.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, and humans are animals, so whatever.
Yeah, I'm not.
It's a stupid point. I especially love that, it's meant as a weapon of war. Well, okay, if the military tomorrow started using a different weapon, does that all of a sudden make the M4 okay? Because it's no longer a weapon of war?
Yeah, it's just painted with a bunch of spooky language, right? I feel like that's just like kind of an introduction to let you know that if you oppose anything that might be coming after this first statement, you're basically down with like baby killing war machines, you know?
Exactly. I mean, I think Ben Shapiro made this point that every weapon out there was at one point a weapon of war.
Sure.
I mean, they're probably thinking, oh, look, a lever action rifle is not a weapon of war. Well, at one time it was.
Yeah, definitely.
A bolt action is not a weapon of war. Well, it was. Not too
World War
long
I.
ago.
That's less than it's about 100 years ago now.
But World War II, they used bolt actions as well.
Did they still?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sure.
It's the situation reflects a failure of our government. It must be corrected to.
That's true. The local government down there and the FBI did fail. So kudos on that point.
This is an accurate statement. That by itself in a vacuum is correct. Yeah.
You're absolutely correct there. It must be corrected to ensure the safety of those guaranteed the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I find it incredibly funny that these people are quoting the Declaration of Independence when the people who wrote the Declaration of Independence were using weapons of war to shoot at British people.
Illegal.
Yeah, illegal weapons of war. Like the reason for the revolution was sparked is because the British were coming to take their guns.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't there some image going around too of where one of them is like ripping up the Constitution?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, that it's fake. She was actually ripping apart a target, like that you would see at a rifle range. Like, oh, look at me, I'm ripping a target.
Gotcha. Okay, sure.
Absolutely ridiculous. It was written by someone who's never fired a weapon, who's never touched a weapon.
To be fair, they're 17 and they are upper middle class white people for the most part.
Yeah,
They probably have never fired a weapon.
I doubt that. I would be very surprised if they do that. They know nothing about.
As badly written as that is, I would not be surprised if they wrote it.
All right. The second, the other point, the other demand I wanted to get to was this: ban accessories that simulate automatic weapons. High command.
If you can pull the trigger really fast, we're going to cut your finger off.
Banning fingers.
Like you can fire a semi-automatic weapon faster than most fully automatic weapons. I mean, you legitimately can. You can pull the trigger pretty darn fast. It goes on. High-capacity magazines played a huge role in the shooting of our school. Let me stop you there. No, they didn't.
Oh yeah, he was using 10 round mags because it's all you could get.
Well, I mean, man, you can just, I'm sure you guys have already railed on this too a bunch, but like the main reason that school got shut up is because of just horrible ineptitude on every level of basically government agency, from the local to the federal. That's why, right? That's the primary reason why. It's you get into stuff like this, and it's just more of that addressing the symptom and not the cure kind of thing.
Yeah,
But
that's
sure. Yeah, let's keep it rolling.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Because it was just in Maryland when the freaking police on duty actually have, the guts to do their job, they can stop a shooting in progress.
Pretty quickly.
Imagine that.
Right, like when security detail actually tries to do security detail.
Yeah, and it
also changes.
It pisses me off because this was my job in the Air Force. My job was security forces, and occasionally I would be posted at the gate that would protect the freaking kindergarten, where all the Air Force members would bring their kids in while they went to work. I can only imagine what might have happened if someone was in there shooting it up and I just sat in my gate shack and did nothing.
Oh, your battle buddies would have killed you.
I would
literally killed you.
I would have been beaten to death by some angry parents. And you know what? I would have deserved it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It would have probably been rough, yeah. But it's this whole situation's pretty crazy, right? Because like right after that happened, I guess this deputy that was outside, when they only thought of it as one, I guess later they found out that there were more that were actually outside too that didn't act. But so the deputy's office or the sheriff's office went and sent people to protect the deputy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The
deputy. So we can protect cops that don't care to do their jobs, but you can't protect students. Okay.
You know what? If an angry mob of parents had showed up at that guy's house to tar and feather him, they would have protected him because, that my thin blue line and all that nonsense. But if anyone ever deserved to get tar and feathered, it's that guy.
Yeah, definitely.
It goes on. Oh, this is good too. In only 10 minutes, 17 people were killed and 17 others injured. This is unacceptable. That's why.
Yeah, it is. That is a really low body count for 10 minutes. Look, this is morbid humor. I get it. That is highly ineffective killing. Like,
how long did it take in Maryland? How long did it take the shooter to get shut down? And there was something 2 minutes.
He shot two people and then he was killed.
Yeah,
right. He was very quick.
Right.
I do think that was a bit of a different situation because he wasn't really trying to shoot up his school as much as there was very specific people he was going after.
Sure.
But like on the ground, they certainly didn't know that. He reacted really fast. So,
I mean, this is one of those things. I remember during that 2 minutes of hate that they called a town hall meeting at CNN. One of the congressmen, one of the congressmen was going off like, you shouldn't be able to fire that many bullets in only 10 minutes or some nonsense like that. Like, you can fire that many bullets from any weapon out there.
I could fire a revolver that fast.
Yeah.
And reload and keep firing that fast.
Anything this side of a muzzleloader, you can fire pretty rapidly if you really wanted to. I mean, if you had the training to, you can reload a shotgun fast enough, then you can fire that many rounds in that short time.
Yeah. The thing is, we're lucky that these kids. God, that's a terrible way to say it. But whatever. We are lucky that these kids are too dumb and they're just going by what they've seen in the movies and all of that and the hype behind all of these shootings. Because if one of these idiots actually used like a truck, Wahhabist terrorists in Europe have already proven that can create a much larger body count. And it doesn't take nearly as much training to do it effectively. So, like, man, I can't. Like, these arguments are so bad. It doesn't even feel like it's worth refuting them half the time.
No, and it's bad, and you feel like you're just saying the same things over and over again. But it's, I guess the funny part about it is that you can. I mean, man, I feel like I can go into those debates now at a certain point, and it's like there's either like one or two ways they're going to go with it, and you know exactly what you're going to say to refute what they're saying and no one ever surprises you. Right, like no one ever makes you eat your words. No one ever. Oh wow, hey, you caught me off guard. There's a new argument I hadn't heard before, and it all boils down to like someone saw like an Everytown chart that went and conflated suicides with homicides. They called it gun violence, and this makes everyone think that it really means murders and homicides, and it's not.
Yeah.
Right. And then so first you got to pick that apart and you got to tell them how their data is all wrong and convoluted. And then once you pick everything apart and you show some actual statistics, and it's a whole different kind of conversation and argument to have. And then you ask people, okay, so what policy are you actually going to say? And then you get all this misinformation that's being spread. And you can tell they don't know what they're talking about because they start saying things like, we just need to get rid of semi-automatic assault rifles. And it's like, what are you
fully semi-automatic?
Define it. And no one can. And they're just like, it's an AR-15. And it's like, okay, and look, an AR-15 is just a fancy rifle. It just looks mean, and you don't like it because it's scary. But, you're talking about the mechanism of semi-automatic. That's a lot of guns that are out there right now that you don't want out there anymore. So you're talking then some kind of full-scale confiscation. If you're not talking confiscation, you want to do something like they did with the AW ban in 1994, all that's going to happen is people are going to buy the shit out of the firearms and the accessories that you're about to ban. Right? 1994 already proved this. All it did was flood the market. So any marginal changes that were made in the percentages that decreased for that bill were made up in the fact that you essentially gave 3 times more of what you wanted to ban to the market, because the minute that the regulations were announced, everyone went and doubled down on getting the stuff that they knew were about to go off the market.
Yeah, and they go into bump stocks later on, like, oh, look, bump stocks, like these super dangerous
You have to work really hard to be decent in the bump stock.
Yeah.
Like the guy who did the Las Vegas shooting had to practice a lot to get that kind of accuracy.
The only reason that was so deadly was because the crowd was so compact.
I would want someone to have a bump stock in a school shooting, because that means the body count's not going to be as high.
Yeah, I mean, you watch some of these you watch some footage of insurgents in Iraq using a fully automatic AK-47.
Oh yeah, and that shit's going on.
Yeah, it's everywhere. They're the most inaccurate morons on planet Earth. I mean, that's why one of the reasons these Middle Eastern wars for the U.S. side have had a relatively low body count is these people. They're firing their fully automatic AK-47s everywhere. Bullets are flying everywhere, but they're inaccurate as hell. Mm-hmm. You can't fire accurately when you have these weapons, and a bump stock is even less accurate.
Yeah, because it's taking the gun all over the place.
So a bump stock does not make shootings more deadly, because it's one of the most inaccurate accessories out there. You're not going to be shooting straight with one of those things. But, of course, people who know nothing about guns, they don't know that. They just hear bump stock and think, wow, that's scary. And, of course, Donald Trump, being the malleable idiot he is, just kind of goes along with it.
Well, and not only that, you get the right. So, I mean, a bump stock is a result of regulation. Mm-hmm. So I don't. It's just you're gonna keep on tinkering, huh? Things are just gonna keep going well. Okay.
With a pen and a phone, we're not even gonna pass a law.
Right.